Wow. Yeah, I think you can stop now. I think.
Dave, we will definitely get banned.
And that was dang easy.
Thank you,
Wow.
Anthony, for the great intro. We are for the first time
That is our biggest intro we've ever had.
the biggest intro, the biggest code garden, the biggest umbraCoffee, and the biggest guest. Hi, Niels. How are you?
I'm good.
Oh, good.
Thank you.
Where we are? Can you guys remember and remind everyone who's watching where we are? What we are doing here?
We're in. Maybe you can pronounce the name of the city because I think everyone else.
Odense.
Okay.
All is clear now. Thank you, and yeah, see you next week.
Yep. No. So we are in Odense, and it's the 14th ever Code Garden, I believe. It's been 14 years. Is that right?
The first one was in 2005, 6. I can't. I don't know. I'm getting old.
You said this morning 2005, so we'll go with 14 years.
And that was what the Flickr account said. I had to check the Flickr timestamp on the photo.
Galleries.
Wow. So it's been a long time. This has been going on, and it's the 3rd or 4th year in Odense. It's the biggest one ever. You've got over 700 people, I think.
You were 8 years old.
Oh.
I knew it would come. Yeah. 8 years old.
That's younger than my kids. Is this even legal? Sorry. I'm just.
That's your one comment for the day.
So it's a long history. It's a great event, of course. As we've said before going live, most of the people who are watching us usually every Friday are here in this room, and we have an audience camera, so we'll be toggling on and off from time to time. Cool, guys. So we are gathering here every day at the end of the day in the theater room in Odense after the Code Garden to sum up what happened and maybe to rediscover and recap. Yeah. Things for everyone who is maybe not here and or would love to just catch up after the event.
Indeed, and it's been a pretty packed day already. We've had a ton of great talks. The Umbraco Awards just finished with a few people taking home some stuff, and we had a lot of information. How did the day start, Marcin?
Yeah, let's start from the beginning of the day. So from the keynote, right? Niels, you was the man who was running the keynote at the beginning. I hear you, people. I hear you. Can you I don't know, sum it up in 3 sentences or 3 main things which was released during the keynote for everyone who maybe missed it or something else. No. Three the most important things from your perspective. Of course, the whole keynote was very important, right?
I think the most important thing was the announcement of the RFC process.
Yeah.
At least that's what I'm excited about.
Yeah.
Because as I mentioned, what I think makes Umbraco special and different, and especially in terms of what works, it's when the people that use the product take lessons learned from real projects and then apply them back to Umbraco. And with RFCs, we are making sure that the stupid decisions that we take in the HQ
have someone to blame.
Are catched before the into the software.
It's a try-catch block around the whole Umbraco.
I think
Finally,
the kind of tagline for your keynote was taking collaboration to 11.
Yes.
Which I think is a really fantastic way to sum up a lot of the things that you shared. The RFC process being one. What else, Marcin?
I've heard about roadmap. Is it a thing finally?
Well, as I said, when we prepared for the keynote, I said we have all these great things coming, but nobody will believe it if I say it. So Jacob, being the one person that entered the Umbraco HQ 18 months ago and said, so what is this Umbraco 8 thing? And he got 10 different answers. And then he said, let's define 8 and then release date. And he actually said last year that he didn't want to go to another Codegarden without it having been released. So jokes aside, Jacob is really the one who's in charge of the roadmap, and he said we're still at a level where we can't give an exact roadmap, and we don't want to, because it's also not important. But what's important is
like
people
promise,
know
right?
what's coming, what we're working on now, what's coming next, and what's coming later, so we don't do work that they're trying to do right now. And I think the combination of the RFCs, which we will use, request for comments normally, but in our case, request for contribution, which we will use for any new major change or any new feature in Umbraco. We apply that, we get it out there, we get feedback, and if that feedback means that it's realistic, then it's up to Jacob, the team leads in Umbraco, D team, and the rest of the teams, and of course in collaboration with the community, to say this is something that can come next, or this is something that can come later.
Yeah, or at least something what we are thinking about, right? Because
and he already did that.
It's
I mean, so even though it was before, I mean, we've been on retreat, and for those who doesn't know, it's around 20 people, about a third from the HQ and the rest from the community, that gathers an extended weekend before Codegarden to discuss all things Umbraco. So our purpose from the HQ is to get a reality check and sync with what the community thinks is important.
And a lot of the things on the roadmap that was presented this morning were stuff that was discussed at the retreat and voted on and maybe elaborated on further. Some examples of that are .NET Core being one of your big next focuses for the CMS. We had a working group at the retreat mapping out what that might look like, with some fantastic people working on that, and it's resulted in an RFC and a whole process around how RFCs could work going forward, and it underpins a lot of the future of that roadmap and helps get everyone here involved in it too.
Yeah, and it's not like it's randomly happened at the retreat. We invited people to the retreat with these topics that we wanted to talk about .NET Core. We wanted to talk about Grid vNext, new front end and other things. And we also internally said we really wanted an RFC process. And then we trust is one of our values at Umbraco. So we trusted that we had invited the right people and that the retreat was a great place. And we felt confident that at the retreat we would actually come up with some great things.
Yeah, I remember it from the last year that the goal was to have a result. It's not about just thinking or just doing. It's about having a result. And so maybe to sum up the retreat for everyone who maybe didn't catch you up or seen the keynote or read the tweets. It was the team for the Grid vNext, or the editing experience for the next version of Umbraco. It was thinking about vNext on .NET Core. There was a team working around the documentation, and I've heard about the new platform, a new documentation engine, which is used from the Microsoft. And the fourth team,
there was front end, the back office,
and PR team,
the back office front end. There was the PR team, how we can automate more process, and also a kind of spin-off of the Grid team was a new rich text editor. And all of this is going to be discussed in a lot more depth on Friday, because for the first time, Friday's got a kind of dedicated focus on these 5-ish, 6-ish topics, and there'll be space to discuss all of the proposals that have been put in place. And those are up on GitHub now, so people can go ahead and start looking at them and engaging with them, come ready with some ideas or some things to discuss on Friday.
And then what was cool was, before we went to the retreat, Jacob and I agreed that no matter what, the HQ would dedicate people to finish the Grid work, because one of the things about the retreat, for instance, last year was there were so many great ideas and so many great things being worked on, but none of it more or less was finished. And then we, just like you go leaving Codegarden and get out of the bubble when you get back to work, it's the same for people working in the HQ. Even though it's a very magical place, it's also work. So what we want to make sure was when we get back to work on Monday, that there is actually set time in next cycle. We work in 6 weeks cycles with 3 sprints in each. But next cycle, when we start that one, there will be time dedicated to finish the grid, which is also why Jacob could say, coming up next is grid. And also say, coming later is .NET Core. And just because it says later doesn't mean we haven't started. The work on .NET Core has actually started. In fact, it started years ago with cleaning up the code base.
I remember the slide shared by Shannon probably on one of the code gardens of the dependencies which are still blocking you from totally moving to core, right?
Yeah.
And it's getting decreased and it's getting there, right? It's just a matter of time and effort.
And then one thing I love about our focus on switching to .NET Core is the contrary to what we did with V5 in terms of making a software engineering and architecture masterpiece. Our focus on moving to .NET Core is to make the transition to .NET Core, making sure that people can use .NET Core, but in a way that affects people the least possible with their current projects. And there might be software engineers out there. There might be purists who says you're doing .NET Core wrong. But for me and the rest of the team, it's much more important that we enable everyone in the Umbraco community to transition to .NET Core without having to learn a lot of new things and without having to port a lot of code in a different way, just for the matter of satisfying purists. And it's going to be fun to monitor Twitter over the next 6-12 months, but I think that's the right choice.
And the RFC process is designed to kind of bash a lot of that out up front. So you define exactly what it is you're going to achieve in that period, and then you've committed to a deliverable, and then there can be future deliverables on top of that. But it's more encouraging more collaboration on these proposals.
Now we're talking about RFCs as if everybody knows what it is. So basically, an RFC is a template for how we can communicate a proposal for a new feature or change. So there's a motivation, there's a summary, there's detailed design, there's alternatives, there's shortcomings and out of scope, and basically a relatively detailed, but also a document where you can read sort of the summary and think, maybe I can contribute to this. It's done as an open pull request on GitHub, on github.com/umbraco/RFCs, and then people can comment on that RFC. And usually in the top there will be a timeline if it's something that we're planning on starting soon. So for the .NET Core RFC, I think it's 2 weeks that you have to comment on it. Others recommend a week. We thought a week during Codegarden might be a little bit hectic. So there's 2 weeks to give feedback, and we've outlined the different things that we would love feedback on.
Nice. That's awesome.
Some of the RFC doesn't have a timeline right now.
That's seen in some other communities, and it works well for the .NET Foundation and everything's around .NET, because people can really contribute to everything what we are doing, and so we are right now can use this opportunity to request your requests, because your voice is important in the whole process, and that's for what it's done, right?
Yeah.
And I love that. I think it was one from the community called Aaron Powell, who maybe I don't know if it's 6 or 8 weeks ago, who suggested maybe it's time for Umbraco to have an RFC process. And I was like, I would love that. But I replied in the GitHub issue, would love to, but we need to find another way because we don't have bandwidth in the HQ for this.
Yeah.
And then I took it back to the team, and Jacob was like, you know what? Sebastian and the other people that work on community have done a great job around processes and structure. So I actually think we can, handle the RFC process now. And we've thought a bit about it, and then it was like, wow, is this how far the Umbraco project is now? How fantastic colleagues I have that we can actually do these things 6 weeks after I've said I don't think this is possible.
Yeah, always
awesome.
a small input, right? Can
Yeah.
result in the big things.
And again, hat tip to Aaron Powell for suggesting that, because else I'm not sure we would have done it this soon.
Let's give him a round of applause.
Yeah,
He won't watch this. He's busy swanning off on Microsoft money now. But yeah.
Aaron won't be interested until he can run Umbraco and Docker.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely.
V next.
We've discussed like contribution and things, and there was other elements of the keynote that weren't just about roadmap and were about celebrating people's contributions. You highlighted some awesome initiatives that have happened in the past year. We have Mike here, who's been spearheading the Umbraco virtual meetup. Woo!
It's not visible. From
he can jump into the camera at the front. Hey, multi-award winning.
Yeah.
And you gave examples of the U practitioners meetup and Codegarden and a ton of other fantastic things that have happened this year. And you brought a few people up on stage and awarded them with MVP awards, which was really great to see. In fact, we have one who's going to join us on stage. Let's give a big round of applause to the Codegarden organizer and now Umbraco MVP, Lucy Brailsford. And we have a nice drink for you. Niels threw your lime into the audience. So.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. Is it? I have one question. Is it true that Outfield is the only Umbraco agency that have 100% of their staff being MVPs?
And I do believe we are the first married MVP couple.
Ooh.
and last year, everyone wanted to become a Matt Brailsford, and they are all Brailsfords.
Would you say that it's irresponsible to hire an Umbraco agency where 100% of the staff is not MVPs?
Absolutely. I think it really needs to be criteria when choosing resource.
Very sane.
But Callum, you've mentioned about the MVP, and there are some changes around the whole program, right?
Yes.
So that's why we wanted to magic.
We have mics coming out of everywhere. I didn't know this. I don't think it was actually discussed in the keynote so much. But you did identify that being an MVP does not have set criteria, and actually that there is so many different ways you can contribute now to the Umbraco community. In Lucy's case, you organize a fantastic event for 25 people each year, and it's been going 4 years now, 5 years.
This year, 25th to 28th of October, will be our fourth Codegarden.
Nice.
So applications are open. Do get them in before the 5th of July. So it's 3 days, 20 developers, 23 including Matt, myself, and Lee, and one unique experience, hopefully.
And lots of nice food that you prepare.
Indeed.
So
amongst other items, yeah.
Yeah, and that's really great to see that you're being recognized for your amazing work, adding to the community in a way that's not just code or not just pull requests or what people might traditionally consider a contribution. And I think I didn't know this from the keynote, but I saw on the blog afterwards that you've removed categories now for MVPs, because that recognizes the fact that people can be awarded for almost anything.
In fact, the almost could earlier, but we almost crammed people into a category, and some people fit more than one category. And also, we felt that having categories could imply that one category was better than the other. And what makes Umbraco special is that there's so many ways to contribute. And if you think about it, Umbraco started out being, so I started Umbraco because I wanted to give my clients a great tool, non-technical people a great tool. And I think that was why Umbraco, with all its shortcomings technically, actually had a nice editor focus. And then as the HQ grew, most of our customers became agencies. Thus, we mostly talked to developers, which was why for a while Umbraco lost its editor focus. And if you think about the MVP side of things, this is actually what we're celebrating, that the root of Umbraco, despite it being open source, despite that we believe that developers are the designers of tomorrow, that it's not the only thing that matters. And the more diverse we can get the community, the better the software we get. I think being able to gather 20 people, I've organized retreats myself. Being able to gather 20 people is, first of all, a lot of work, but make them feel comfortable, a type of people that usually are introverts, in a way that they start to blog, tweet, other things, really talking positively about this event and celebrating the idea that we as humans interact is a huge effort that calls for celebration.
Yeah, I completely agree.
For someone who didn't attend any of the code cabins yet, I've seen how people changed after attending the event. They've become more visible, more vocal, they were sharing more about their experience. It doesn't matter on what level of experience they are or what they are doing, if they are developers or agencies or owners, etc., etc. They were just sharing more and doing more, and the whole collaboration of an outcome of the single weekend, right? It's more than just being there and doing stuff during the weekend.
That's it. And I think Owen summed it up not last year before. I think he was quite concerned about his skill level or his perception of lack thereof, but it not the case at all. And it's about having different people of different skill levels, newbies to experts, considered experts. And I think it's that mix of people, which is again why we have the application process as well, rather than just purchasing tickets. It allows us to choose a good diverse skill set to make sure that we have great discussions, people are giving knowledge as well as taking knowledge away, and that's what the weekend's all about. And I think thank you, it's great that I've been recognised for this, but it's also a team effort. Lee and Matt have had the vision for this for quite a few years, and they do a lot of work as well to put it on. There's a lot of things that go on in the background, and it's quite an intense weekend for them as well. I think there's an expectation that they're seen as some kind of guru, but they're not. It's they don't know stuff either. So it's a learning process for everybody. But so I just wanted to shout out to both of them as well, because I wouldn't be doing it if they didn't have the vision as well. So.
But their ego can't handle.
And I must say the diva drops at times are quite hard to handle, so you do have to kind of rein that in at times.
But I think that this is a great moment for the big round of applause for everyone, for every MVP awarded since the project began. We've seen a great wall of the names of all the MVPs. That's an amazing idea.
From the past 12 years.
I've never imagined that my name will be on any wall, but this is amazing to see those people.
I have to disappoint you, Martin. Technically speaking, it was on a fabric.
So at least we come back to life, and I can stop dreaming.
Something else that I took from the blog, just to maybe wrap up this discussion, was a slight change to how the MVP program works going forward. So I believe from next year there will be a way to nominate people and bring them to HQ's attention, which is awesome because, as Lucy rightfully said, like you're running a community event, and you have you see all of these great people, but maybe they are shy and don't really want to put their name out there too much, and people can recognize that greatness and highlight that to HQ because they may not be shouting from the rooftops about the kind of stuff that they're doing. So that's a really, really good change. Maybe Niels can share a little bit more about how that came about.
Sure. One of the funniest things about doing this is whenever you deal with humans and you try to create a program, they will hack it. So the first time we did MVPs, it was based on the first couple of times it was completely by selection. The community was so small, so that was relatively easy. Not saying it was fair, but it was easy. And then we introduced the karma system on and then the MVPs turned into the people with the 20 people with most karma. went into a voting process, which worked fantastic for 2 years. Then people starting knowing and researching how the karma system worked and found out if you just replied, you got 1 karma point. So people started giving really bad replies, and a lot of them, and raced through the karma roof. Then went into the shortlist, and then they got their agencies to start voting for them. Which on the sideline was really funny to see. It's like, wow, we've never heard of this person, and everybody loves him. And then we started looking at the email addresses of people who voted for the person, and we were like, we ordered this. And then we changed it, and we changed it back to being us looking at different stats we could find, including karma points, core contribution. So Sebastian spent half of his time the entire year desperately trying to give me and Ilham stats on community people, and that doesn't work. Sebastian should spend his time on something else. By the way, look out the window. No, there's a rabbit.
Rabbit
On a bike.
There was a rabbit. Yeah.
By the way, are you sending this in 4K, or do people think I'm wearing a hat that says "Make America Great Again"?
No,
I'm pretty sure it's not that clear.
We cannot zoom. But
It says "Make Bingo Great Again."
We have to wait till tomorrow.
Yeah.
I am not political except for Brexit, but that's another topic. Going back, circling back. So I'm really bad at short answers. Anyway, Ilham runs the MVP process now, which is amazing because she's super process oriented, and she's not biased the way that a lot of us who've been a part of Umbraco is. And what's really great about this is that she was like, the community is so big, why don't we give people a way to nominate people? And I think that's important because, I mean, keeping up to date is almost impossible.
You will be notified about people because it's not able. You are not able to follow everything, right? You're not able to follow every channel, every message, everything done around Umbraco, right?
Yeah, and to prove, I mean, an example of this is when we went through the MVP nomination process, we had a huge spreadsheet of, I don't know, 10, 12 tabs of a lot of activity going on in the community, and then we were like, I have no idea who this person is.
Yeah.
And then it turned out that person had, done a lot of things, which is why, we need people to nominate, giving good nominations, and then we'll still be the evil committee deciding on the MVP.
But it's fantastic. Back to this theme of collaboration. The community can now collaborate to make sure that person of doing fantastic work but isn't getting recognized gets recognized. That's really, really cool to see. I look forward to seeing the outcome of that next year because, should be good.
Me too.
Maybe let's give our 2 lovely guests a round of applause, and we're going to bring up someone new because this room smells amazing, and I think we're going to try and explain why. So, a quick round of applause for Niels, and thank you. Cheers. And so I mentioned that this room smells amazing. We've opened the windows because it was really hot in here for one reason.
Yep.
And that is because Morten, who leads the headless team, has been making tacos in here for 3.5 hours.
Awesome tacos. Community input.
A few people had them?
Yeah.
Nice. Let's bring Morten up. Let's give him a round of applause. So perhaps you'd like to explain why you've been making tacos.
Well, I like tacos.
Let's move to another topic.
That's the main thing. But no, I did a talk on using headless, a new offering to sell tacos. So we made a small kiosk where you could order tacos, and then a website that highlighted Umbraco's tacos, which is our taco stand.
And your t-shirt.
You've said headless. Can you tell people more about headless in general? What it is?
It's a new cloud offering. Of course, it'll be Umbraco version 8, based on version 8.1 to be specific. And so what it is it's basically just the back office of Umbraco, all the things that you have there. and then it's an API. That's the main thing, where you can fetch all of your content through an API. So there's no front end in all of this. It's up to you to build a front end, but then you can build it however you want to. It doesn't have to be a website. It can be a kiosk, like we showed.
Mobile app, whatever.
Yeah, a mobile app, or whatever you can think of.
And you shared some really interesting things, because headless, Umbraco headless as a concept was unveiled maybe a year ago, released in a beta a year ago, and people started playing with it. But it's based off V7, and you're currently undergoing the process to rewrite that to be based off V8.
Yeah.
With the goal to launching later in this year. But
Q3.
Yeah, Q3. That's documented now on film.
I think we've said it multiple times.
Yeah, it's on slides.
But you also shared some of the other stuff that might happen longer term. The idea that you might have tiered plans for making sure you can offer different support, but also things like a CDN, which was announced in the keynote, to ensure that media and the API responses are served fast, no matter where you are in the world. Also, this idea of functions, which I really love, webhooks, ton of stuff. Maybe you want to share a little bit about that?
Yeah, well, I think especially the CDN is something that we find interesting, and something that we spent a lot of time on the past couple of months, and something that we've worked on and contributed back to the core of Umbraco. So for 8.1, you'll see a bunch of improvements around media and media URL providers, so which is especially interesting when you're using something like blob storage, and also have a CDN on top of that blob storage. So currently in version 7 and also version 8, it's a bit awkward when you work with CDNs, because there's some redirects, and especially also when you use image processor, then there's some quirks. There's some solutions that work, but there's still some stuff that we can improve. So that's some of the stuff that we focused on for coming into this, so we can put that into version 8.1 and serve it up so that it just works out of the box. So that's been a huge focus, so we can provide that feature for both cloud and for headless as well. And I think, well, we're pretty excited about that, and we're getting ready to kind of launch that, or incorporate it into cloud now-ish.
It's really cool to see that you're using this commercial, I guess, product to bring all of those benefits back into core. So this is a requirement that you had for building headless, but actually that's going to then benefit users of Umbraco CMS directly as well, which is really nice.
Yeah, I mean, we've also learned a bunch of stuff this past year about how people have been using headless, and also just how people are using Umbraco and property editors. So there's a lot of those learnings which I hope will continue to benefit the core as well.
Yeah.
So yeah, some of those things are directly affected by that.
That's cool. And you also shared how, I think it was last year's Codegarden, where the whole discussion around GraphQL started through Pete and Rasmus running a open circle on the Friday, and there was all that discussion. And from that, HQ have decided longer term that GraphQL can be something that headless could also support, and that's awesome.
We hurried up and hired Rasmus.
Yeah.
I mean, also again, going back to the feedback, that's some of the stuff that we've heard, and what we can see when people use headless, especially from front-end developers who want that freedom to query stuff and don't have to go back and ask a back-end developer for specific things which they need, but they can kind of do it end-to-end, especially if they get to choose the stack, or kind of own the stack for not just the front end, but like the whole website. So one of the partners that we've worked with and got a lot of feedback, they've created a BFF, or backend for your front end, in between their website and then headless, because they're also getting information from elsewhere. So I mean, all of the stuff around filtering and querying is I mean, GraphQL is just a very, very good place to be when you are a front-end developer, and we continue to see that it's just a huge benefit for front-end developers that they can use something like GraphQL when they work. So that's definitely something that we're looking into.
Awesome.
We want to bring that in as part of Headless.
Nice. And the one question I had off the back of your talk today was, will Headless ship with a way that I can make tacos effortlessly?
Yeah.
Yes.
Ooh.
No.
Mr. Resolved.
If you buy the enterprise plan, definitely.
You will get Morten in
Hand
person
delivering
doing
the
for
tacos.
you.
Yeah.
Amazing. Well, they smell really good.
For the UK festival.
Yes, we were joking that Morten can do the catering for Codegarden next year. He was bashing those.
I will need
Those,
to clone myself a few times.
From
Yeah, you
small
might need a
jokes
team.
to-
Cool. Maybe to wrap up
Yep.
the episode, have you had any favorite highlights from today? Some talks you've seen that you
Besides
enjoyed,
tacos.
but beside making tacos all morning.
It's our highlight. It's
Well,
our
to be honest, I've just been working on the tacos all day.
highlight. And Callum,
Been cutting avocado since 7.
Wow.
what's your highlight?
My highlight, I have two, and it's difficult to choose, but Jeffrey's talk about his dreams for V8, I
Yep.
think was really good. There were some fantastic ideas in there. I would recommend everyone at HQ watches the recording when it comes back, because he's written your roadmap for the next 6 months
It was
to a
good.
year.
I saw that because I was making tacos on the side while he was talking, so I actually saw that one.
You're great in multitasking.
I also
Tacos and
I also
future
really,
plans.
really enjoyed Dean Barker's talk on distributed CMS and this idea that content can come from multiple places. And I think that ties in really nicely with the headless topic, because you could have Umbraco as one small part of your wider system, which is really cool.
Yeah, I think that's pretty spot on, because that's also some of the things that we're seeing, that people they need somewhere to get content from. Maybe it's not their main the main feature of whatever they're building. Maybe the e-commerce is the major part and the central part of it, but then they need content, or they need to enrich something, so they can just bring in Headless and then fetch it through an API, and then it's more or less seamless.
That's cool. Marcin, what was your highlight? Maybe the keynote?
Keynote, of course, and then the whole data around the project and everything about the future of the Umbraco. Plus the dreaming about Umbraco future from Jeffrey, for sure. And it might be a BS, but that's definitely I really enjoyed the talk done by our team from Cogworks and Smith & Ransom about the project which we've done lately. It was a massive migration from Sitecore to Umbraco, and it took a lot of my health and energy. That's why I enjoyed to see the result of it, because also all of us can learn from everyone else's mistakes and then also approaches. And I love to see how other people are approaching projects and problems and issues and everything like that. So that's why I think that it was something even from what I've learned a lot.
Great.
As a result.
Well, there's like a whole day of more awesome talks coming tomorrow.
It's hard to highlight.
So
because there was a lot of talks, right? Accessibility talks, commerce, headless, and a lot of stuff. So
and tons more.
And everything will be on video, right?
Yes, for sure.
So,
for sure. We'll be back tomorrow, umbraCoffeeing.
Yep.
I think a bit earlier, but we're here every day this week. I'm doing a talk tomorrow morning. I've got to try and not drink too much tonight so I can make it on time, not do a march in. And we'll catch up tomorrow, see what we enjoyed, and maybe Morten can see some talks tomorrow.
Would be nice.
No tacos tomorrow.
No tacos.
Oh no, we're all out.
With this sad message,
more flour from me.
With this sad message and output of the whole umbraCoffee, we can thank you for participating and for and encourage you to enjoy the rest of the event, and of course being active in areas of the whole CMS and Umbraco contributions.
Go to the Dream Corner. Share your ideas.
Umbraco Dream Corner, and what's the
Cloud Lab.
The Cloud Lab. The Cloud Lab. When you can dream, you can sketch, you can share your ideas and everything else with the Umbraco directly. And we will see each other tomorrow.
Yes.
And we are looking forward for everything shared tomorrow. It's hard to pick some talks, to be honest. Do you have any particular plans for tomorrow, guys?
My talk at 9 a.m. I encourage people to come along.
No.
It's about migrating a V7 to
V8.
V8 site. I was really worried about this because I was worried Niels would announce in the keynote, and we've done it. We have a nice automated way of upgrading, and I just have to cancel my talk. Thankfully, that's not here just yet. A couple of weeks.
Umbraco
early.
is waiting for your talk, and after your talk, the magic button will be
Exactly.
implemented. Cool. Yeah.
Cool.
Once again, thanks for our guest. Thank you for joining us today live and on YouTube. And yeah, we are coming back to the usual event stuff.
Get another
We will
coffee.
see each other. Yeah. Coffee is running out. So yeah, we are going to the Coffee Express and see you tomorrow. Yep. Thank you.